guys, I am Chris Kaler.
And I'm Amber from Kyuujin, and today we're with you guys for a movie review of the Thunderbolts.
Yes, we were lucky enough to see this movie in advance last night. As we're recording this, it's coming out tomorrow on May the 2nd. And we wanted to let you guys know how we found the movie. So this video will be separated in two parts. The first will be without spoilers, so if you've only seen like the trailer or even if you haven't seen that, we'll be as vague as possible. We won't spoil anything. Then we'll do a little pause. I'll mark it, so don't worry. And then next part will be with spoilers, so for you guys who have seen this movie or don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see how Thunderbolts was.
The past doesn't go away. So you can either live with it forever, or you can do something about it.
Under pressure.
Alright, so is the MCU back?
I would say that the door is open.
The door is open.
The door is open. I mean, they had an incredible casting with Sebastian Stan,
Yeah.
Florence Pugh, and others. I mean, those are the names that I remember, so sorry for that.
Of course, this movie talks about a bunch of anti-heroes, a bunch of rejects, a bunch of losers who were, were in this part of the MCU where it's been a while since the Avengers Endgame and we have no true team that represents anyone, right?
Nobody's really taking charge of
Yeah.
what's going on.
The world kind of feels lost. The heroes or anti-heroes that are left don't really know what they want to do. Some of them might want to try their shot at being heroes and actually doing the right thing, right? So here comes this cast. It is an amazing cast, and it is freaking cool because even though we just recently watched Falcon and Winter Soldier, it has been years since we've seen some of them on screen, right? So it does feel great, especially like Bucky. I remember in the theater, he's the favorite character of all the people in that room.
Everybody
and they all
was
freaked out.
cheering him when he was on screen.
Exactly.
Amazing.
So we got Bucky, we got Yelena, we got fake Captain America, John Walker, we got Taskmaster, we got Ghost, and we got Red Guardian.
Yep.
Right? All of those people were announced, and it is exciting to see them together. They do have a great dynamic. All of them have dabbled in comedy, so I thought the tone of the movie was funny yet surprisingly dark.
But it's not a dumb comedy
It's
jokes.
not dumb, for sure.
Usually, all of them are good with sarcastic. The tone of joke, basically.
Yeah, when we say dumb, we mean like Thor: Love and Thunder, right? Thor: Love and Thunder, in which like whenever something dramatic happens, it's kind of ruined or introduced by a bad joke. In Thunderbolts, there is comedy, but I felt like none of the dramatic stuff was ever like interrupted by something cringe or something that let the emotions just scatter like nothing happened.
They
right?
didn't overpower the most emotional part of the movie, basically.
And like emotional parts, yes, that was the surprising and maybe like the most surprising thing in this movie. It has so much heart.
That was like critics from many fans.
Yeah.
That movies nowadays are just like entertainment movies, like for just the sake of it, like action wise, but there's no heart in it, there's no character building technically.
Well, for sure, we're so used to the MCU formula. When you watch Thunderbolts, it feels like such a different movie than what we're used to. I remember coming out of the theater, I was thinking that it wasn't a letdown, but the less interesting parts were the action. Some of them were fucking cool. Let me clarify that.
Yeah.
But the best parts of this movie are psychological, emotional. It's character work. It's those actors doing what they do best, and they do deliver. Especially like Florence Pugh. She is carrying this movie from beginning
she did
to end.
Such an amazing job, by the
Yes,
way.
but she is also surrounded by by actors who do a terrific job of delivering just intense emotions and like humor for sure, but also some dark parts because all of these characters are flawed, and and this is another thing too. Like what's interesting in this movie is we already know those characters, so they don't really waste time reintroducing them. We do like look at the past a little bit here and there, but it really is about where they are now and where they're going, from now on.
We all know that they've done bad shit in their own movies or series.
We all
And
know.
basically, that movie is really centered about second chance, basically.
Well, that's the whole point. Like, we've rewatched the trailer just to make sure we're not spoiling shit, but the whole tone of this is like, we are not supposed to be heroes, but there are no more heroes, so can we do the job? Right? It's a redemption arc for them in a way.
Or to find something more filling, basically.
They are, yeah, it's true, right? Like, what's their purpose is the big question. So I felt that despite, like, it's still MCU, there's still humor, like I said, but it really is toned down to a level that I felt very comfortable with.
More well balanced compared to previous movie that we had recently, basically.
Actually, I would say more balanced than even earlier stuff from the MCU. Not like our Iron Man shit, because Iron Man dealt with humor its way because it's Tony Stark. But like even some of the earlier Avenger movies, I was like, sometimes there's a joke in there that you're like, it doesn't really lend well. I don't think there's a joke in that movie that lends bad. I think it might be because, like, to me it felt natural, maybe because those actors deliver comedy really well.
Yeah.
For example, Florence Pugh, right? I knew I was gonna love her in this movie. I love Yelena. I loved her in Black Widow when we watched that. And as an actress, I love her. So I knew she could deliver the drama. Mm-hmm. But she's also so natural with the sarcasm and like the cynicism and just the jokes that Yelena does. I knew she would be able to balance that, and I was not disappointed. And it's not just her, right? Everyone managed to balance both the very dark and the very light. So the tone of the movie was spot on. And what was interesting is that it's a lot more psychological than what we're used to with the MCU. The subjects that are, talked about in this movie are so different. And we've dabbled with psychological in the past, but we've dabbled, right? This movie is mostly about that.
Showing us what trauma can do to mental health, basically. Pretty much everyone. So,
yeah, mental health.
Yeah, mental health in general.
And it's interesting because, usually with MCU, it's kick-ass fights and like explosions and end of the world type of situations. But we have a cast that, yes, we have a couple of superhumans, 3.
Yes.
And we do have powers, right? But most of them can't really deal
Heavy damage.
Yeah, heavy damage, right? Like you have lesser Black Widows and lesser Steve Rogers,
For example, yeah.
stuff like that, right? Or lesser Ant-Man, or lesser, like it's all just lesser. But that's what makes them so interesting in a way, because you keep asking yourself, like, and just like they keep asking themselves, why am I here, and should I be here and do something? Like, should I do something?
What can we do?
But we do, like, we jump straight into their state of mind, where they, they feel they should be, what they aspire to be, and I think it's handled really well. Like, I'm not saying it's the best MCU movie I've ever seen, for sure. But I did feel like, no one is gonna say from that movie that the MCU is dead. For sure, this movie is different, but I think we need more different when it comes to MCU. We've had enough of the same thing.
Same recipe.
And it's been bad recently because, those who have tried to do different, Thor, Love and Thunder, it feels like they've completely misunderstood those characters. They do make fun of stuff. They do, joke around, but they do that to deal with the trauma. The trauma is important. I know there's a movie in the MCU that most people don't like, but I actually love. It's Iron Man 3, right? I really enjoyed in Iron Man 3 when they, pointed the finger at Tony's PTSD. But we handled it, and then, like, he throws it around, like, he deals with it so quickly. Some could say, like, it's still handled realistically, but I feel like compared to Iron Man 3, this one deals with trauma and your dark past and what you've done and just that guilt really well. Like, all the way till the end of this, like, we're following a realistic, like, growth. Maybe in the end, it's rushed a little bit, and this is where, we'll talk more about it, in the spoiler section of this, but because like that's another thing. Like we have so many characters, we don't really have time to focus
On all of them.
All
yeah.
of them. But those that we focus on, we do focus on them like correctly. So cool.
By the way, I was really not impressed, but interested in the villain's abilities that we saw in the movie.
We didn't know this character.
We didn't know that character in the Marvel Comics
We're not.
series.
I don't know if you guys can tell just from the trailer. So we're not gonna name him yet. If you've seen a trailer, you've seen what he can do, right? He does name himself a little bit, but just in case you guys haven't seen this, I believe that character, like that level of power, and the way it was shown to us, like the way his power is handled, is a very interesting visual effect. And it's interesting because like I did feel like visual wise, the beginning was really well shot. They made some choices that you talked about that right after, but we can't really get into that yet. But still, there's an action sequence with Florence Pugh at the beginning that really portrays her state of mind. And when you mentioned it, I thought it was pretty interesting because like, because I felt that this movie lacked a little bit in visuals. There is not really any shot where you're like, oh wow, that's beautiful, right?
It's funny because that scene is one that I remember correctly because it just stood out that much to me.
But thinking back on it,
I mean, the way that they shot it reminded me of like the Old Boy.
yes,
You know?
it's true.
If you know the scene, it kind of looked like that.
They played
a
in
way.
shadows a little bit,
Yeah.
and it just reflects her state of mind really well, considering what's going on. And thinking back on it after you said that, it is true. The beginning is really well shot considering the theme of this movie and the creative choices that they've made for the villain and how like they reflect that. And we have a little like info about the backstory of this, like for the spoiler part, but yeah, the choices they made for the villain and his powers, very interesting and very dark if you think about it. So visually, like I said, I wouldn't say there were shots that like blew my mind, like holy shit, like this is like the circle around the first Avengers type of shots, and I've been waiting for this all the time. Like it's not beautiful.
I mean, does it give me the same feeling as the first Avengers when it had to defeat the space and outer space army? No,
well, we're far from that. But that's the
No.
thing. In a way, though, it fits because they're the lesser versions, but they're trying to be their own version of stuff.
An introduction of a new team of superheroes or anti-heroes in their case, basically, I think it was a nice shot, and I did not leave the theater disappointed. That's for sure.
Yeah. So basically, visually, nothing mind-blowing except maybe that first sequence and those choices in the end, right? But music-wise, it was great. Acting-wise, perfect. I don't think anyone in this movie did a bad job. I guess my one big letdown is that the beginning of this movie is really well done, really well written. It flows perfectly. And then you get towards the end and shit needs to happen, so we focus on Yelena because she's carrying. It's her movie, right? And the others kinda
Or pushed to the side a bit.
yeah, they're kind of forgotten. Like Yelena and Bob really are handled well. Their characters are, every one of them is great. Every one of them has layers, but their growth, their changes, they're really pushed forward. But if you're like a big fan of Bucky, Ghost, Taskmaster, you won't really get, like, it's not a Bucky movie.
It's not a Ghost movie.
It's not a Ghost movie. It's not a
USA
Taskmaster
Gen
movie. Technically, it's a Thunderbolts movie, but it does feel more like a Yelena movie.
And Bob.
With an introduction to the Thunderbolts that might evolve into something else, right? We do talk about them, but we don't dive into their trauma. We don't explore what they've been through per se. We know about it, but it's not like it's been shown and developed. So we kind of need more, but we don't have time to show it all. So when they focus on Yelena for sure, but everyone else kind of gets sidetracked. Everyone else almost. John Walker gets his moment. a
Or a
little
little
bit.
bit moment, yeah.
And through his connection with Yelena, Red Guardian also gets his moment. So that is totally cool.
So basically, with maybe an additional 30 minutes, we could have a bit more time to dive into the other characters' storyline or
if
maybe
only,
struggles in general.
If only, if you've seen it, but I mean, there's a scene at the end of the movie, the big conclusion, or just before the big conclusion, right? Where
Felt a bit lacking because of the lack of inclusion.
Well, that's the thing. It would have been the moment to truly like take that the shit in their past and take it like up to the surface and have this crossroad moment where they get to finally choose: do I stay a fuck up? Do I stay a loser? Or do I grow? And am I gonna be stronger than that? And Yelena gets that, and she makes her choice, and everyone else kind of makes their choice too, but we don't see them make that choice.
We don't see it. Yeah, we didn't have the time.
And like, I mean, to be fair, like that whole second part of the movie kind of feels like they realize they don't have much time. So, and in a way, though, I like that they focused on Yelena because she gets really like she gets her moment in the spotlight, so she is not lacking. But they didn't focus on anyone else. And if they had focused on everyone, I don't think anyone would have shined. So if everyone had had their moment, they would have, they would not have had time to be perfect with at least one of them. So at least now we're perfect with Bob and Yelena. We're near perfect with Red Guardian. We get glimpses with John. We barely get any Bucky, Ghost, Taskmaster. So at least we got Yelena, But I can't really complain. But it was my big thing. Like watching the movie, I was like, I kind of expected to see some stuff there, and I didn't get it.
I'm just gonna say though, maybe just like with Natasha and Hawkeye, they're gonna have their moment later on.
Yeah.
I mean, Hawkeye did not have a movie yet. He had a series, but not a movie yet.
It is true. I guess.
And Natasha had a movie after she died.
It opened the door for maybe more of the Thunderbolts. Like, was it rushed for them? Yes. Am I mad about it? A little bit, but it did not fuck up the movie for me. Because at the end of the day, it's a lesser Avengers movie, but it still feels good.
Yeah.
It makes me question, where we're gonna go with these characters from now on. Because as a team, I think they play off each other really well. So I kind of want to see them again. And I don't want to say more than that, but I was excited, very excited. I was not disappointed. Like I said, I wouldn't say it's my favorite MCU movie, but considering what we've had since Endgame, this was a change in tone that we desperately needed. We're so far from all that bad shit that we've had. To me, this movie is a good movie, but a great Marvel movie. I would say the MCU is back with this movie. The MCU is back, and I've heard people say it kind of is a return to basics for the MCU, which is not a bad thing because I think it forgot itself on the way. I would go even beyond that and say yes, it's a return to basics when it comes to what a character should be, because they are human beings. They're not cartoons, right? They're not caricatures. They're not supposed to be all powerful, indestructible, like nothing can affect them or whatever. I mean, their fault.
Alexis can be a caricature though sometimes.
They can make fun of that, but we have to bring them back sometimes, right? Otherwise, Thor: Love and Thunder. So overall, yeah, this movie, he's got my approval rating for sure. Did it blow my mind? No. Did I enjoy it? Definitely. Should you watch it? Yeah. These guys are fun. They play well off of each other, and some stuff happens in there that you definitely need to know in order to see the rest of this journey in the MCU, right? So, but and that's another thing, right? It felt important. It felt like it needed to happen. Maybe it needed to happen earlier, right? Because it has been a while since we've seen these characters. But since we caught up recently, it doesn't feel like it's been forever. No. So it's not that bad. Okay. So unless you have anything else to say, I think we're ready to just delve a little deeper.
For the non-spoiler parts, no. But for the tea part, of course I do.
We do have some tea. We'll start with that, I guess. So in the spoiler part.
What's the plan?
This could get messy. to realize that there are bad guys and there are worse guys.
So,
Okay, so
time to bring the tea.
the one thing that surprised us doesn't really bother me, but it surprised us is the fate of Taskmaster.
She got killed like 2 seconds in the movie.
You were shocked by this. We wondered at one point if she was supposed to be in the movie, and because of all the backlash, they took her out. Because it really felt like we blinked and she was gone, right? I know some people don't like her just because they feel she's boring, but in a way, do we even know her? I don't know. So,
But I mean,
she gets killed really early on. I feel though it worked in a way that we needed to be shocked. It was a huge action sequence. We needed to be like, oh shit, something happened. We need to stop. We need to think about our situation. And her death was that moment where they were like, okay, wait, let's not kill someone else.
Yeah, but personally, I thought that it happened a little bit too quickly or easily.
A little quickly,
for what she's supposed to represent. So, are they gonna bring another Taskmaster later on?
Maybe.
Who knows? But it was a bit too quick to my liking.
That is, yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of what I said earlier, right? Like, this movie has so many characters, and we've seen worse, and we know how bad it can get with like a huge cast. So in a way, they kind of did good with what they had. But my big letdown from this movie, and that does not, change my opinion about this at all, but it's how much, focus all of them get. Florence Pugh gets the treatment, like the queen treatment in this, because it is her movie, right? But everyone is so excited to see Bucky again, and in a way, like, I know he's been in so much stuff, he kind of has done his character development. I explained it to you, like, my thoughts and stuff, like, he was the mentor here to show all of them the mold.
Next Nick Fury, basically.
In a way, yeah. But he was kind of meant to be there as an example of how it could be. And it's not like he's completely dealt with his past, but he, after Falcon and Winter Soldier, after all the Avenger movies and the Captain Americas and Steve moving on and all of that, it's kind of like if he was still stuck with the PTSD and it was a huge deal, people might have been like, oh, dude, get over it. And they should never say that about Winter Soldier, because I don't think he'll ever get over it.
No.
But he was there to kind of inspire these guys because he has worked with heroes.
He had the pedigree, basically.
He did get his scene of like, oh my god, it's the Winter Soldier! Like, he's back! That fanboy moment where you see him coming on his motorcycle and you're like, okay, the real guy has shown up. He has 2 of those in the movie actually, but the second one doesn't last
The second one didn't hold up like the first time.
But second he's badass, the second one he's like, oh, okay. No. No. But to be fair,
time.
Bob is fucking strong.
Yeah, so they try to kill each other and they find Bob, who is mysterious. We don't know nothing about
Who
him.
has a shit ton of mental issues.
Yeah.
He's a great example of why you should not give that much power to someone who has not dealt with his trauma. But in a way,
Someone with that much unstable.
he's a great, he fits right in with the Thunderbolts because they also have a shit ton of trauma and they also have a lot of power or training, right? Except they have less power than Bob and they are more in control, so they handle it. He does it. He's manipulable. He's easy to sway, and even though he doesn't sway for that long, right? Considering he turned on Valentina, but he's innocent enough that he questions stuff but I feel like he's in that gray area just because he doesn't have much. He's not used to being a good guy. Whenever he tried to be a good guy, like in his flashbacks when we're in his room in the end, we're going through his traumas, we see that whenever he tried to be the good guy, he got hit and yelled at.
On, yeah.
Exactly. So I don't think he wants to step out of that comfort zone, that gray area where he just doesn't bother anyone because he feels like he makes it worse. Right? That is handled really well in the movie, by the way. Like the whole mental health, depression, self-loathing aspect of Bob is like so important, and it connects with Yelena, it connects with all the others, in the way that they feel like they're not supposed to be there. They're not supposed to help. Like they're out of their comfort zone. They don't know where they belong, just like him. They belong with each other. They feel like they're alone completely. They feel like no one is there to support them. So they're drifting in the void, and they have this emptiness inside of them. Except for Bob, that emptiness is now used as a weapon. And yeah,
I mean, when we talk about emptiness, we did a bit what happened at the start of the movie with Florence Pugh with Yelena.
Oh, that
and mental wise, she's so lost since the death of Natasha.
She's empty.
She feels empty, and I like that image that you represent. That right now she's feeling at the edge right now, and she's kind of falling by literally falling down the second highest tower in the world.
That's a sick shot, by the way. It was
sick
really
shot,
cool.
but mentally she's falling, and she falls also.
And then she goes through the motion of doing her job and kicking ass.
And I noticed, and I told you after the movie, that what I like is that mental-wise she's going through the motion, she's doing it, but she's not feeling anything. And how they shot that and represent that in the movie basically is we saw her point of view from the top, and everything is just shadows. So it's just complete void during that movie, but well shot, well done basically.
It is though what makes her connect with Bob in the end.
Yeah.
Because he needs someone that has been through this telling him it's gonna get better. And not just saying that, but also like being there to say like, if you need help, like you're not alone, I'm gonna be right there with you. Which, granted, considering he didn't have time to connect with the others as much, led to that end scene being a bit cringe with the others, because you're like, I get the point, it's a beautiful shot.
The team is there for him, but we did not see that much time for a connection between all of them and Bob.
No, it just means that when they hug him in the end to make him understand he's not alone, it works, but at the same time you're wondering like,
where did you have time to connect with him to that level?
I don't think it's because he connects with them. It's just that for us it feels like, okay, it's a bit like much. It's in French we would say it's cucu, right? It's
cringe.
Not cringe, it's just, it's cliche, it's a little cheesy, but it is needed. That scene where he's being hugged, at first I'm like, okay, like, you guys, it's cheesy. But then when he starts crying and he starts reacting to them, I'm like, oh, okay, no, but I love Bob. So, I mean, him being saved like that is, in a way, beautiful, and it's very different from how we're used to, like I said, with the MCU movies, how they usually handle situations.
I mean,
it's all psychological. It's all in the emotions.
With the first Avengers, most of the time they had to be strong, super powerhouse. Like they cannot show weakness because they're from their past trauma. But with all of them, they're so much more open with what they went through and how they trying to deal with it.
I guess that the original heroes used their past and their traumas in order to get strong. And this is where the Thunderbolts and Bob, they're rejecting that side of them so much. Like Yelena at the beginning saying like, that void, you have to push it down and forget about it. And then later on she says that's not true, you have to embrace it and eventually it'll get easier. Pushing it down means you're not facing it, and that's a part of you. You're not using it to become stronger. You're letting it keep you back, right? The void in the end facing Bob and, you know, throwing insults and stuff and like goading him into punching him, it's self-hatred. It's like, I hate a part of myself and I only deserve to be left in you know, with that part that I hate. Basically, it's just me alone with my traumas, and I'm never gonna get out of there because it's gonna hurt others. But this is something you can control. This is something that you need to accept. This is something you need to embrace in order to move on, because it's never gonna go away. Which I guess it's a beautiful metaphor for mental health, because it's not like you can wish it away, right? You are who you are. You can get help for it, but you cannot act like it's not there because it's a part of you. So I guess for them, it was about looking at their past, understanding where they came from, but using it as a strength to grow better, to grow stronger, and to become the hero, just like all the other heroes did. Instead of letting that stop them from being the good guy, because no one's gonna accept me. No, like I can't do this. I'm a screw up. Yelena has a scene, you know, after they are defeated for the first time by Bob. Sentry, we'll say it, Sentry.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, he's so overpowered. In a way, I'm kind of happy.
He's a freaking Superman.
He is Superman for the MCU. I am happy though that him embracing his power would also mean him letting out the darkness, and he's so afraid of that it looks like we're not gonna see Sentry for a bit. Like he's gonna keep it inside because he's too afraid of letting it go. So kind of like with Vision, he had too like many questions, and he was too new to this world. He was his morality was kind of like floating up there. We didn't really know. So because of that, we weren't sure if he was gonna go all out during the fights that we were gonna need him, right? Except in the big ones. So with Sentry, it kind of feels like that. When we'll really need him, he might show up, but
maybe
he's not gonna like change anything.
Before you go with what you were about to say, I just want to think that the fact that Bob hated was battling self-hatred against himself remind me of the fact that all of them, like Yelena, Bucky, John Walker, not maybe she's dead, so not Taskmaster, but Ghost, all of them already
Red Guardian
have self-hatred, hate a part of themselves from
what they've
become or what they had to do in the past. And the fact that you got this newcomer with Bob, and at the end of it, it's a bit cliche, but all of them see Bob hating as an innocent, hating on himself and beating a part of himself, and they just stop him from doing that.
It's like an innocent guy who from their point of view has done nothing wrong because he's been used, he's been manipulated. So they see this and they're like, you're totally innocent, you're a victim in this situation, and they see him beat himself up.
And slowly
it's a reflection of how they've been handling themselves. But if you think about it, they're all in a way victims to their past and what they've been through, victims to the pressure for John Walker, right? Ghost, I have to admit, I haven't seen Ant-Man and the Wasp.
She's in there too.
I know she's been experimented on.
She suffers a lot.
So they are all victims, but they see themselves as the aggressors, so they think they deserve the abuse. So for them to look at Bob and be like, it's okay, you're not alone, it'll get easier, it's a way for them to also deal with their own trauma and move on. But yeah, like, we see that because Florence has a scene midway through, like 3/4 of the movie through, anyway, after the first defeat where she just screams like, we're losers, you know she believes it so much. It's what kept her back, because I feel like she's so afraid of messing up and not being, like, you know, what maybe her sister wanted her to be, or not being as good as her sister. So she'd rather do what she knows she can do and stay in the shadows. But she's also feeling that need to make Natasha proud, and that need to feel that fulfillment that she found with the Avengers. So she's shy about it, and her first brush with being a hero is defeat. So she just throws it in their faces. She's like, we're screw-ups, we're losers, we're not meant to be here. Because it's easier to accept that defeat than to get back up and try again, right? And then she has this great scene, which, by the way, like, I love Red Guardian. He's amazing.
Such a comedic relief.
But that's the thing. You would not expect, that's what I was saying, like, these guys handle comedy, and usually they're the comedic relief, right? But there are scenes in this movie where you're like, Jesus fuck, they can also handle the drama. When Red Guardian goes and talks to Yelena and she starts crying about like everything she's been feeling, and he finally understands and he tells her what he sees when he looks at her.
I mean, it did start by doing some joke, but when she really broke down, he stopped and he told her the truth, basically. So that's a good way to deal with emotional moments in that movie without being overpowered by comedic relief.
But it's not interrupted,
and not, it does not cut the scene, so it's really nice.
It's just naturally her reaction of, I don't want to get too cheesy, I don't want to get too into my emotions. So she makes a remark, but she's still crying, we're still keeping it low. It's in character. So it's really well done. It's handled well. And like even him, like he's he's funny, right? Red Guardian is there to make jokes, but he still manages. When she walks into those shadows and he starts screaming and crying, it is a little bit over the top, but you feel it so much, man. Like, these characters are great because, like, I feel like in a way they were never meant to be main characters, so they can like allow themselves to screw up. They can allow themselves to be cartoonish here and there. But when they truly bring it home, when they truly bring out the emotions, it surprises so much because we don't expect that from them. And I'm not saying the actors, I'm saying the characters, right? You don't expect tears and you know, true despair from Red Guardian. So when it happens, you're like, holy shit. But yeah, we saw them come into their own and finally be the heroes that they needed to be. I mean, technically that scene could have been a little better. Like that whole them bending up and finally being the team by, you know, just showing up when we need them. I did, you know, almost laugh at that bit because like it's cool. Like honestly, on paper, it really is beautiful. You know, you got John Walker saving someone by holding a slab of concrete or something, and he should be able to handle it. He's a super soldier, but it's still very heavy, so he gets help from everyone else, and eventually the whole team is pushing back. But like with Red Guardian, Bucky, and John Walker, this should not be a hard slab of concrete to push. They still struggle, and I kept, you know, thinking, what if they push it off someone only for it to fall on someone else? And then they have this moment where they're all like, this is where I wanted an Avenger type of shot of like either like the turning around them and just showing them like heroes. Or,
yeah, but that's the thing, they're not the
but
Avengers.
in that moment they were. In that moment they were.
I mean,
so
all the shots before that when they were saving the civilians, well done. Like they all managed to stand to the.
To be fair,
stand down
yeah.
to the task, but it's just that moment in particular was a bit.
It should have been bigger. I feel like it should have been a little
should have
bigger.
been bigger.
And like every little scene of them saving civilians, it kind of feels like that random person could run, but they decide not to run, and they show up. So the editing on that part was a little like clunky and a little like, I need it to happen, so I'll write it in the scene, but it doesn't really make sense, right? And visually, this is what I was talking about earlier when I said that visually it's not a movie that impresses me much, except now that we've thought about it, the beginning and the shadow effect, which we'll get to after this. But there's nothing that, you know, impresses me visually with the action sequences per se. Some of the stunts, some of the fights, you know, they're a bit like, we've seen better. That's why I'm also saying it's not my favorite MCU movie, because I've seen better. But it's kind of like, I've seen better fight scenes, but a good fight scene with, I've seen better emotional moments, but a good emotional moment. Like, it's full of good and great moments. So I'm really not disappointed in the whole thing. But yeah. What I did love was the little twist in the end of the new Avengers shit. Because I did not see that coming. And I should have, because like she was literally looking at the team like, that's what I should have gone with. Like Valentina, when she sees that Sentry has gone dark and fuck, I messed up. She loses everything with that one guy, and then she sees the natural heroes come into their own and save everyone, and she's like,
and
I should have put my money.
clapping and whistling. It's kind of, damn, that's my marketing idea.
And technically, she is the one that hired them, so she's like, I'm so responsible for this. So she makes up this whole like press thing
in secret. I mean, she's basically
she baits
trying
them.
to bait them in, and they go and on the other side of that wall, you got all the press. Waiting with the all the presses, the camera, the phone, everything basically.
She baited them, and now they're stuck being the new Avengers, which is kind of why I'm wondering where this movie will go from now on, because for sure, like that after credit scene, which I think might be a scene from Doomsday, which would be freaking cool, because it feels like it's Doomsday.
The end credit scenes brought the Fantastic Four,
Yeah.
so I'm guessing that that's the end of their movie, basically.
Could be the end of their movie, could be the beginning of Doomsday, like it's in there.
We were wondering
how they got there,
if their storyline happens in the 50s.
It kind of feels like they went through a black hole or something. Maybe that's what's gonna happen, but they do show up at the end in the cutscene. But to see them in Stark Tower, Avengers Tower, which is now New Avengers Tower, and like to hear that there's some bad blood with Sam, because he's saying like the Avengers are not yours to use, right? Like it's not your team. And Bucky feels so sad. Bucky feels so sad. He's like it didn't go well. I kind of feel like he's so happy because he was so bored being a senator, being like in politics. It's not his spot at all.
Congressman Bucky? No.
Oh no. He keeps saying like
not it.
I don't do that shit anymore. When they say like, oh, we'll do something huge, like we'll spy or whatever. Can you track my phone? I don't do that anymore. But you want to. So yeah, he was so freaking bored. So I feel like being back in the action, just being natural at it, which by the way, he looks so good on motorcycle. It's just so casually like throwing stuff around, blowing, cars around. That whole John Walker be like, yeah, like Bucky, woo, and then he goes to blow up their limousine, and he's like, ah, shit.
I mean, we're not talking about a good action scene. That one
was great.
That one was.
I mean,
just how
we've seen better, but
we've seen better. But the way that he uses Bucky on his motorcycle, how he took down the guys, how he bring down a whole truck with a chain rope, basically.
But it feels like the guy is literally like, it's just another like Tuesday for me. Like I've done this so many times. Like he's so casual about it. So he wants to be in the action. So I feel like when even though he might have reacted like he's grumpy about it, being a part of a team, being a part of New Avengers, it makes them feel worthy, especially Red Guardian. It's his dream come true, right?
Being a superstar, yeah.
So to know that Sam is behind that, being like, Avengers is not yours to own.
Honestly, I prefer the name Thunderbolts.
I prefer Thunderbolts as well. New Avengers is not really theirs, although it doesn't really belong to anyone, so it's not like they can't use the name. So I guess now we have the New Avengers, and we might have Avengers. I'm thinking all of these people, like all those names won't matter when the big bad guy comes, and we have to just be one big team.
Like you said, all of them are pretty much a bunch of lesser Steve Rogers, lesser Black Widow, and lesser Hawkeye. None of them have super strengths like Thor, technology power like Iron Man or Hulk. But Bob, we cannot trust Bob yet because he cannot control Sentry or the Void.
He's kind of the mascot right now. Like he's
kind of mascot, yeah. But speaking of the Void, when we first saw Sentry, by the way, the blonde does not really good on him. Sorry, but it does not.
Neither does that costume.
Yeah. But first when we saw Sentry, man, it is Superman for Marvel, basically. And how can we defeat a guy that cannot be defeated?
I truly was like, okay, in a way though, like it's because he's fighting the Thunderbolts, because like I said, none of these guys can do big stuff, right? That's what makes it interesting. That's why this approach needed to be psychological.
Yeah.
Because that's their forte. That's the one thing they have. Trauma. But like, they can do damage, but not the same damage as all the other Avengers, right? So how were they gonna face a guy like Sentry when he cozied up to Valentina and she manipulated him into, doing what she wanted? I really didn't see it. I was like, okay, we're not strong enough. But then after that, I was like, we kind of need characters like Sentry, though. Like, even though, like, it's making me wonder how a guy like that could be stopped by heroes like this. We also know that future evil characters will be stronger than Thanos, and like we got fucking Doctor Doom showing up soon, right? And Secret Wars is gonna be something else, and
or Galacticus with the Fantastic Four.
Well, yeah, I don't know if he makes it to our time. Like he might just be the big villain of Fantastic Four. But that's the thing. Like we're gonna have big villains in the future for the MCU, right? So if we don't have a couple of heavy hitters, because everyone's dead, we're gonna be fucked.
Yeah.
True though, the beauty of MCU, beauty of Marvel is that we have pretty normal characters, pretty human characters taking on mighty tasks, right? The fact that it's Iron Man that defeated Thanos, right?
That's the purpose of being a hero.
I know. But still, it makes you wonder, like, if we can't even do it.
It's the fact that you're a simple human being doing an impossible task.
Well, I'm excited to see how they'll handle the bigger stuff if they can't make one scratch on Sentry.
But yeah, so we saw Sentry, and
The void
Valentina had a fail safe just in case, and she had to use it because Sentry was a little bit overcome by this feeling of invincibility, basically.
Well, he started asking. She built him up by giving him all those speeches about how he's closer to God than a human, because she's trying to pump him up. She's trying to appeal his need for greatness and his need to feel like he's someone. But by doing that, she gave him no reason to follow anyone but himself.
Like he's above everyone else, and he was about to feel like that, but they got rid of him, and because of that, we had the Void. Which
in a way saved Bob.
It saved Bob, thank you. But the Void is
we like Bob.
Pretty scary.
The way they did him, like the way they created him, like for a sec I was looking at it like, did they just fucking erase the screen? Like is there even an image there? And then I started seeing some shadows and some like.
I mean, it's like if I read yourself all of your colors and I can like, just see your shape.
I know, but
eyes.
it felt like true negative space.
Yep.
He is the Void, but like if you paint someone black completely and you put him on the screen, you can still see
the nose and the lips, but it's just like the contour of your shape, like your head, your shoulders,
and how like
his golden eyes. That's the only thing you can see. It's like a demonic form.
It is a bit.
Screen.
It's creepy as shit, and the way his shadow just spreads, and it's not even a shadow. It really is just emptiness. He was swallowing all of New York at this point, and how he kills people, and you found out about it, right? So, I mean, do you want to tell people how they came up with the idea to use the shadows?
Yeah, when I was scrolling online, they said that the idea of the vanishing shape was taken from the shadows left by people during the Hiroshima bomb.
Which is such a haunting image. If you've never seen those photos, you guys, kind of like you knew someone was there and there's absolutely nothing left.
It's like all of the civilian from New York City just got burned onto the crypts like a nuclear bomb.
It's just like it's not even a ghost left, right?
No,
it's just
like a burn shadow left on the concrete. Basically.
It really is haunting, and so that moment felt visually interesting.
And music-wise, like you said, it's interesting because I don't know if you recall, but when people were vanishing, you have a sucking sound.
Well,
basically.
it would make sense.
Like a vacuum sucking sound, like.
I noticed more that they were using twisted Avengers theme versions of that OST for the Thunderbolts, and then eventually it turned into the actual Avengers theme in the end when they became new Avengers.
That's true, but because at the start of it they were not really the new Avengers.
I know. You noticed this during people vanishing. I noticed this during like the growth of the Thunderbolts, like the soundtrack there. But yeah, Void is I'm not gonna miss him much. I think he's creepy as shit.
He's an interesting villain, and I don't know how we can get rid of it. We can't. We cannot get rid of it.
The only one who can face Void is Bob.
Yeah.
That's also why we won't be seeing Sentry easily in the future, because he'll have to, like, it's gonna be a battle. When we truly need him, I do believe he's gonna maybe come out.
It's a battle with himself.
It's constantly a battle with himself. So in order to let out Sentry, he needs to also let out the Void, and he needs to control the Void. So it's always going to be dangerous, and right now he's not in he's better, but he's not in a space, in a state of mind where he's okay with, like, he's confident with letting him out. So
I mean,
but it's okay. He's very overpowered. So just let him cook.
But what is nice is, I think we've seen it before, but it's still nice to see it on screen. Is like, the Void represents someone who's being overpowered by all of your negative emotions, all of your depression, emptiness, and the feeling of being lost and alone.
Because this whole movie is a metaphor for mental health and depression. I really love that.
You did say that one of the letdowns of that movie is we didn't have time to see all of the main characters' story, because at the end of it, to save Bob, Yelena goes into the Void and she has to face her own trauma. And we've seen a bit of trauma from John Walker because with his wife and his son, but we've seen nothing from Bucky's side.
Because John has a son now.
Yep.
Or I mean, he lost them too because they walked out. But that's the thing, right? Like, we brush on that, and they do have a scene where, like, Yelena looks at him and she realizes that he's not. He doesn't have that perfect life, right? Because they all felt like he was being cocky and he was trying to be on top of things, and he was arrogant, which he is, but now you realize that
He was
that's all
also
he's
wearing
got
a
left.
mask.
That's all he's got left, right? So you kind of feel his pain. He's also a screw up. He's also like the rest of them. So they connect through that. But
Yeah.
it's not addressed after that. We don't see flashbacks. That's where I felt like, okay, we needed a little more time, and I really would have loved to see all of their flashbacks. Bucky, I can understand a little bit because we've seen a lot more of him than the others,
In
but
previous movies.
yeah, but it's supposed to be the Thunderbolts. It's not just Yelena. So although I am really happy that all that time was spent on her because her thing was very well developed, except maybe the resolution of it, because when she goes to Bob and she's saying like, eventually it'll get better and stuff. How do you know? Because it has already, started to be like that for me. You were saying she had her conversation with Red Guardian.
Red Guardian basically told her that I'm here if you need me. We are family.
And I look at you, I don't see your failures.
I don't see her failures. So she has someone, and she understood, maybe not very openly, that she's not alone, because you said
But
that you did not see it, but she understood at that moment that I can have someone, I can have a team with me, I can not be alone anymore if I want to.
But still, after that, she goes in the room, so it's assumed that she still has a shit ton of trauma.
It's not gonna
and
left
she faces
in a click, though.
I know, but she faces that trauma and only runs away from it because she has a bigger purpose, which is to find Bob. And then she gives that little speech of it's gonna get better, and I felt like she dealt with that really quickly. A little quickly, but it's not so much that she dealt with it quickly, it's just that it was addressed really quickly. And everyone else, we don't get to see their rooms, which, I mean, at least John Walker would have been interesting, because John, we've heard what's been going on with his wife and child. So can we see a little more of that? Can we see him actually come through that room, like understand that I'm strong enough to go through? Even Bucky would have been interesting as shit to see like his own room
or
and
maybe
what's been going on.
to connect more with our side. Because honestly,
Red Guardian
I have seen Ant-Man and the Wasp, and we've seen a bit of her storyline, but maybe not that much.
I guess we're keeping some stuff for
Later
eventual
movies.
later movies potentially, so we get to develop those characters. But like Red Guardian, what has he seen in his room? We have never brushed really on what's been going on in his past. We know what he's been doing, but what's your trauma? Has he handled it already? Like, is he okay? Is he moving on? Okay, I guess, because it's not addressed. Because this movie has too much to show, and in the end, it's just like, oh shit, we've done such a good job
But
in the beginning, but now we kind of need to get on
in a
with
way, I can still understand why they chose to just go with Bob and Yelena for that movie, because at least you have a central focus.
Well, I prefer-
central line to focus on.
I
you know?
prefer that they focus on Yelena and Bob and do them perfectly than focus on everyone equally and we end up with a half-ass job, right? Still, if you're a big fan of Bucky, if you're a big fan of Ghost or John Walker or Red Guardian, you won't get much from them. Red Guardian, he does have a great thing through his relationship with Yelena. You get a little bit of John Walker. He's cool to see. He's got, his humor is great. Like, he handles that really well. He connects, well, his dynamic with everyone is cool. And we do see a little bit of what he's been up to, but it's not dealt with by the end of this. And, like, Taskmaster dies in the beginning, so...
So we don't talk about her. I mean, we always said that Bucky has can have a relationship with John Walker, with Yelena, sort of with Red Guardian, because he used to be best friend with the first Captain America.
Still,
But
for a movie called Thunderbolts, they're left behind a lot.
Yeah, but even more so with Ghost.
Like, just, for example, when she's in the Void, and they have this discussion, like, oh, maybe we should follow her in that, maybe she understood something that we're not seeing. We don't even see them come up with the courage to walk in that shadow. They just show up to help her when she needs them, which, okay, I guess, but it's Thunderbolts. It's not Yelena.
Yeah.
So, but still, I'm not, mad about how
We're
developed
not
she
bashing
was.
the movie.
No,
I'm not. Let's be clear.
Or I'm not mad at how developed they made her character, because she does carry, and I do love her, and I feel like it's her movie more than it is the Thunderbolts.
You feel like maybe with a little bit more length time, the movie could have been even better?
It's hard to say,
better
man.
cuts certain part, maybe?
That's why Avengers was, they all already had their own movies where we went through everything about their characters. So when they show up in Avengers, we know them, we know what they've been through, so we don't have to dive into that. But this time it's not heroes coming together that we've seen already. They were always the side characters in their movies, so it's not like they had the development. So it does feel like a trying to be Avengers thing, because it is like the title is switched in the end to New Avengers.
Yeah.
So it does feel like we took those characters and we gave you an Avenger movie with them. But just like they are side characters or anti-heroes or lesser versions in a way, even though I love them, let's be real, we all love a anti-hero, a broken character, we love them, right? Even though that, they feel like lesser versions a little bit because they're meant to be comedic relief, they're meant to be sidekicks, they're meant to be support. So when you put them all in an Avenger movie, it kind of feels like that. It's a support movie. It's not Avengers level. There's some stuff missing. But is it good? Definitely. I just want to be completely clear, right? I really enjoyed it. I left that theater with a big smile on my face, and I do feel like it's a movie that rewatching it is going to make it so much better.
Yeah.
And it's already great. It deserves, you know, the rating it's getting already from critics, right? Is it a good movie? Yes. Is it a great MCU movie? Definitely. Is my take on it.
Yeah.
It's, as a movie, it's good. As an MCU movie, it's great.
True. I'll go with that.
Yeah? Okay. So I think that's, we've dealt pretty much everything at this
Did we
point,
deliver
right?
the tea? Was it hot?
We delivered the tea. Go watch this movie, you guys. You will not be disappointed. And if you are disappointed, please share your thoughts and what would you have done different. To be fair, I would have kept Taskmaster a little longer.
Yeah, or at least
Just because like it kind of feels like they got rid of her. So
too soon.
And I maybe would have added 20 minutes to it, if only to see more of those rooms.
Better transition. Sorry.
Yeah, I would have, you know, worked a little better on the shots for the fight scene at the end, and I would have, you know, added a little more work to the room stuff.
Like you said, right now we mainly focus on maybe Bucky because he brought the pedigree. Yelena, Bob.
We don't focus on Bucky much. He's Nick Fury in
No,
this
but
movie.
he's Nick Fury, but he's there and he brings the history of what a hero should be.
He's the mold, yeah.
Is the idol. And then we focus on Bob and Yelena and a little bit of John Walker, and we completely forgot about Ghost.
Yeah, nothing is mentioned about Ghost.
So I'm a bit sad about that because she's supposed to be in the team on the same level, basically.
That's just us, like, looking for dirt and just trying to air some stuff out, because it can't be perfect. It's not perfect.
Can't be perfect, but would have been nice.
But just like those characters, it is perfectly imperfect.
Yay. Alright.
So thank you guys so much for watching this review. Hopefully you guys get to see this movie if you have not. And I hope you enjoy it just as much as we did, if not more. We'll see you with another reaction, another review, another video in the future. So,
Alright. See you next time.
bye.